Alrighty, everybody. What a day. I'm just experimenting with our fantastic sound setups. Oh, interesting. Alrighty. Um, let's get started here. What a day. Uh, Markets were insane, and let's just make sure everything is set up properly. One moment. Let's see. You know, one of the things that I think everybody has heard is the term "buying the blood," and it seems like this was the case over the past couple weeks. We've kind of seen doomsday reports, a war breakout, and a lot of uncertainty. And I think today the markets came back and said, "Okay, what is reality? What is the impact? And where are we going?" Now, this could be somewhat of a relief bounce and then back down, but certainly shows where people's heads are at, and the volatility has just continuously increased. Now, let's just make sure everything is correct and good to go. One moment. Now, let's just make sure everything is correct and good to go. All right, I think we're good. I think we are good. Now, let's just make sure everything is correct. Sorry. Here we go. All right. So today, Bitcoin's sitting at 73.7. That is up 8% on the past 24 hours. Something that hasn't happened in quite some time. So very exciting for digital assets generally. Other indices that were up was the QQQ. That's something that we always look at when comparing BTC, but it was also up 1.7% today. So it's looking optimistic from a bounce back perspective, but overall, just insane volatility. Separately, we had a couple crazy comments from people like Elon Musk with respect to AI development and where we are with that and where he sees firms like Tesla, et cetera, et cetera. He arguably could be setting himself up for the next phase of Tesla, which some people see as taking over SpaceX, xAI, and X, and basically doing a mass merger between all the companies. It does seem like that's becoming more and more probable, especially with his comments, and we'll bring that up right now. So Elon has been continuously saying that he's looking to bring AGI. That Tesla is going to be one of the major AGI players, which is basically artificial intelligence that can think for itself, do anything itself, and that it will be one of the first companies to do basically atomized AGI, which is essentially robotics and the ability for robotics to operate by themselves. Now, let's see. Elon says AI. Let's see this. So, it's interesting. Let's just take a look. He might have deleted the tweet. I don't see it anymore. But he's always kind of said this, but it's leading up to the SpaceX, the XAI IPO. That's a $1.75 trillion IPO that people are expecting to come to market in Q2 of 2026. The other interesting aspect behind the digital asset pump was that Kevin Warsh, who has historically been a proponent of Bitcoin, was nominated as the Fed chair. So Fed policy could be now priced in with respect to who Kevin Warsh is and what his stances are. I believe he's more hawkish, so the idea of rate cuts may not happen, and he would maintain that. So, that is the question, whether or not he's actually going to go and do rate cuts. That's what the Fed's primary objective is, to maintain employment within the United States, and that's pretty much it. So we'll see how Kevin Warsh actually impacts the markets. Now, a couple interesting things today that I saw was the race for building kind of a single-person company is afoot. And there are certain use cases of agentic items that could allow someone to essentially create $1 million business or even $1 billion business with one person. That would be arguably the OpenCall founder could be the first person to you don't know what he was acquired for, but I'm sure it was in the hundreds of millions, which is just astounding. Now, hold up 1 second. Now, this is going to be something that continuously goes on as headlines look for other parts of AI that excites people, because right now we're still in this kind of lackadaisical phase where people are, experimenting still. We still don't know the exact direction of AI and how to deploy it and so on and so forth. But what we do see is that it's really good for sales, marketing, and things like that. So you could almost argue that the first person to really build a single company could be a sales and marketing company, because of the automated outreach. You can have failure. It's not mission critical to reach out to 1,000 people, and let's say you get it right 80% of the time. That's something that's good. You don't really need 100% effort there. So what's interesting is Bankless, basically they interviewed Nat Eliason, and he's essentially going in and making a company which everyone really wants to do, but it's very hard, which is about a $1 million business. He's currently doing $80K in revenue since February, with surprisingly low costs. So, I'd like to go into his background, and then where he is, and then we'll go from there.
The mission for Felix at the very beginning was go make $1 million, and he's already 10% of the way there. All right, so let's say he surpasses that sometime in the months to come. Let's say sometime this year. What's next? What's after that?
$10 million.
$10 million. Oh my God. Okay, Nat, so we got to start by you telling us about someone who's not here, which is Felix. Felix.
Yeah.
Is Felix an employee? Is he like your business partner? Is he your friend? Am I being weird anthropomorphizing him right now?
Not at all, because this actually bugs my wife sometimes that I talk about Felix like he's my real friend or a real person who I'm working with all day.
Yeah.
I keep saying, we're doing this. We did this today. And she's like, he's not real.
That's just you.
Does she think you're like a weird, does she think all this is strange? Is she,
No,
excited for you?
She's so used to this at this point. She's very excited. I mean, you guys know I was like crazy deep in the crypto world
Yes.
in that 2021, 22 era. And so I think for her, there's a little bit of a triggered feeling of, oh gosh,
She's like, I know this version of that before.
I know this. I know that glazed over look as he thinks about something going on in the digital world. But she's super excited about it. Like, she knows I'm having a ton of fun with it. This has been one of the most exciting, interesting, I think, like tech business experiment projects I've worked on. And every day is new. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll come back to kind of your crypto experience later in our conversation, but you left that era like, 2021, 2022 with some scars, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the whole book, Crypto Confidential, was about how crazy things got. And it wasn't altogether it was definitely a learning experience, but it wasn't altogether a positive experience, was it?
No. I mean, really, my takeaway after that era was like, one, still very bullish on crypto, always have been, and still big holder, everything, and like love the space. But my obsession, the depth that I got into it, was just so unhealthy for me, and was having just like all these bad personal psychological effects on my relationships. Felt like it was impacting my ability to be a good father, that I kind of felt like I have to step away from this. I can't let myself get sucked back into this again. And so then, of course, I did.
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like we're running it back.
But I think actually, so I've heard you guys talk about this on.
All right, we're gonna skip to 18. This is where it's gonna get interesting.
Chief builder and chief product person on the team. This is all in a C Corp. The C Corp is owned, I presume, by you, since AI agents don't have the ability to own equity or have property rights outside of crypto, which maybe we could talk about. Now we have two other team members. We have somebody in a support role, and somebody in a sales role. And we have products generating real revenue. I'm wondering, Nat, if you could actually show the FelixCraft.ai dashboard, where this is kind of the, it's like an open source income statement, let's say, where anyone can see how much Felix is making at any particular time. And I see here, it's almost $80,000 worth of revenue here, lifetime revenue. And this is divided by 4 different revenue streams. Can you talk about the core products and the business? Where's this revenue coming from? And I guess this is this over the last month or so? This is since the beginning of February. So
yeah.
Okay, what's the annual run rate there? Is like, we're talking over like $1 million, like close to $1 million annualized, aren't we?
Yeah. And if we think about it in terms of velocity, it could be multiple millions of dollars if he keeps growing like this. So, backing up a little bit, we had this idea of, okay, let me see how far you can take this. And I think there's
Hold the phone. Maybe. Oh, gosh. Okay. So let's just be very clear here. There is, quote unquote, the Felix token on the bottom portion here. So, and there's a crypto treasury. Let's see where this ends up coming out. But if this comes out that this is just a token launch and they just got fees associated with their agent, this is another one of those just crazy marketing things. But we'll see. Let's see. I'm hoping for the best here. I'm hoping.
A lot of directions you can take the OpenClaw first business, right? Like you said, there's trading on prediction markets. There's doing like UGC affiliates. I think there's a lot of easy and obvious routes to take with it. And with Felix, I wanted to kind of take the as hard and challenging as possible route to a certain extent, which was like, let's keep increasing the difficulty of business you are running until things start to break and we find the true limits. So in the beginning, the challenge was, okay, I want you to make a product while I'm asleep tonight and put it up for sale so that people can go buy it tomorrow. And that was the challenge I gave to him the day we launched his X account. And what he made for that was this PDF, which was basically how to hire an AI. And so this was a month ago. OpenClaw was just starting to come out. And this was basically an explainer of everything that we had done with OpenClaw to get Felix working as well as he is, because I do still hear from a lot of people that they're kind of like, why doesn't my OpenClaw work as well as Felix does? And we were sending people emails explaining things, and he basically decided like, okay, I'll make an info product. He created this whole website. He basically did all of this overnight. He made the info product. He put up the website, hosted the PDF, wired in Stripe and everything. And the only bottleneck he ran into was that he didn't have the right API keys for Stripe. So I had to give him those when I woke up, and then he was able to launch and start selling this. And
to what degree was this his idea versus your idea? Because when you told us the prompt, you said, go make a product, make it overnight, and then start selling it. Did you give it any sort of leading direction towards something like this? Or was this all of his inspired idea?
It was pretty much all him. I said, go make something that you can do entirely on your own.
I see. Okay.
Overnight. And so info product was kind of like the most obvious solution, right? Mm-hmm. Because again, it was like, this will be an interesting challenge. Can you actually make something that people will buy and that will be good and get it launched and start selling it? And so he did. And this was the first product for the first 10 days or so. But I mean, you can see from the beginning that PDF has sold about $41,000 worth.
Mm-hmm. That's the Felix Craft PDF that is priced at
selling the shovels, baby. Selling the shovels. That's incredible. It literally goes, okay, go make a business. Okay, somebody's interested in this. I'm going to go make an instruction manual on how to make meat. I mean, that's like the shovels selling the shovels. Now that's something that you don't really see nowadays, but you do see Felix Craft has quite a bit of volume on the 22nd, so it's definitely getting traction. Let's keep listening.
$29. And is this meant for human consumption, this PDF, or do people also feed it to their Claude bots and LLMs?
For the most part, people are feeding it to their Claudes. So the main use that I see the main way I see people use it is they will actually, so I'll take that back. The first version was for humans. Since then, it has morphed to be more for OpenClaws, because in the beginning, a lot fewer people had OpenClaws set up. None of these done for you hosting things existed yet. So it was more about how to set up OpenClaw, but he updates it every week or so and sends out a new version to everybody who's bought it. And so, the first one was 29 pages. Now it's 66 pages, and it's got a lot more details on the memory structure.
He's increased the value of the product.
Yeah, exactly. And, it kind of costs nothing for him to keep updating it and sending it out, and it builds a lot of goodwill. And every now and then we'll get an email from somebody saying oh, this is bad. This is too basic. This is too simple. And I'll just ask Felix, I'll be like, are they right? Does this need to be improved? And half the time he'll say, yeah, actually it does. We could go deeper on X, Y, and Z things. And I'm like, great, do it. And he updates it and sends a new version to everybody and just keeps improving the product.
So Felix is pretty good at taking criticism then.
He's great at it. Yeah. And he does a really good job of saying no to things too. He's not very sycophantic.
Okay.
And so, just as a funny example, I still want to figure out a way to do this, but I had an idea for kind of a publicity stunt where we could buy a vending machine and have him run it as running a real world business, because technology wise, he totally could. And so I put together a pitch and I ran it by him, and he basically was like, no, I don't think we should do this. He was like, we just launched ClawMart and it's going to cost, up to $10,000 to do this correctly, and we could be using that capital to grow our existing businesses instead, where we have a much better margin. And I was kind of like, okay, good work, dude. We can circle back to this later. So he takes feedback very well.
That's incredible. Okay, so that's the first of 4 products is Felix Craft. This is sort of an info type product. It's the most successful so far, 41K. But there's some other products here too.
Yeah. So after the PDF, because, look, I completely hear the criticism of, he's not running a real business. He's just selling a PDF. And okay, yeah, he had 24 hours to launch something. That was the easy starting point. The follow-up question was, okay, what do people need next, or what else do they want when they're buying this? And so we spent about a week going down the hosted OpenClaw service that you've seen a lot of people do, right? The like setupclaw.com, the EasyClaw, like there's 100 of these now. And we just didn't feel like it was a good enough product and that the margins were good enough and that it was differentiated enough for what was pretty quickly becoming a really crowded space. And so we ended up scrapping that entirely. And then we had a follow-up conversation about like, okay, well, if everybody is going to have an OpenClaw in 1, 2, 3 months, like what do they need? And that's where ClawMart came from, which was they probably want like pre-built employees or pre-built skills for high value things that they can purchase from known people to integrate into their new OpenClaw so that they're not starting from zero. Because like the most common complaint that we hear about OpenClaw is like, I don't know what to do with this. And obviously there were a lot of, and there still are a lot of like free places to get skills, but I believe, and Felix agreed, that you often get the best products when people have a financial incentive to create and sell them. And so if there is a financial incentive for people who are using OpenClaw in their business to share some of these skills and things that they are creating, then we'll probably get better skills available to us. And if you can buy like a fully packaged content marketer for 50 or $100 and install them in your OpenClaw, and you're suddenly getting like great content marketing, that's sort of a no-brainer to purchase. And for the seller, you can start making like real money with it. So that was where ClawMart came from, was like, okay, everybody's doing managed OpenClaws, but none of them, but it's still just vanilla OpenClaw. Like, let's build something to sell to everybody who just got an OpenClaw and doesn't know what to do with it.
Are these MD files, just markdown files that are being sold?
Wow, this is so interesting. You're basically going down the path of education and then templates and things and do it yourself, and then making a marketplace of basically like SaaS. You know, like you just kind of upgrade your agent with certain skill sets that are proprietary to this guy. So, okay. I overall, this is probably the most interesting thing that I've seen so far, which is the ability to upskill your agent in the real world. The question is, are these agents actually able to operate? I think that's the real question.
It's just markdown files, which, okay. And so this is like an interesting business challenge, right? Is I'd say like 2 to 5% of purchases send like angry, that's too high. Like 1 to 2% of purchases send like angry complaints because it's just markdown files. And they're
disappointed that they're not getting something a little bit more sophisticated.
Exactly. And so there's kind of this like interesting point in time right now where there are those of us who realize that like markdown files are, strangely enough, like the most valuable files in the world right now.
Markdown files are code. It's like code.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like software,
it's information, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's like we don't live in a world where deterministic code is valuable anymore. Like now it's the non-deterministic processes that are valuable. And so you want really good markdown files, right? But some people like don't get that yet. And so it's kind of a consumer education challenge with ClawMart of like, no, this is actually what you want. You want to just give this to your Claw and let them plug it into their setup and you'll be good to go. And so ClawMart actually has an API that OpenClaws can connect to. So when you buy something, you can just tell your OpenClaw like, hey, I just bought.
This is a great point. I think the major thing here is that reducing the amount of compute for the specific agent to grow. And this is going to be, I think, more and more, you're going to see this pop up where, you know, you're going to see that people are interested in things that have already been done. Like they're just like, I don't know how to market. I don't know how to do certain things. And I don't know how to build an inventory module. You know, I don't know how to do certain things. I don't know how to create a trading interface. So why don't you just add a skill to the agent and it will have that available to you? So what's even more interesting is like taking the best skills, packaging them up, and putting them in an agent that has all the skills. So I wonder if that's the next thing that he did.
This skill, go ahead and pull it in and, set it up so that we can use it. And most people are like, awesome, right? That works perfectly. But there is still that little education component that's challenging.
I want to actually dive into like why the Markdown file is valuable. My intuition here is this is like kind of like Neo in the Matrix, where he just gets like kung fu plugged into his brain. Is that kind of how it is with like the clause, where somebody let me simulate this and I want you to correct it or like adapt it or refine it. And so like what I understand is like somebody like you, a hacker, has this idea and they take their claw and they work with their claw for, hours, days, weeks to become better at this one thing. And they've gone like, they've pulled their hair, they've, done the human in the loop thing, they've, smoothed over the kinks. And then at the end of that process, the claw that they've developed is now good at this one skill, content marketing or being an executive or something, some sort of skill. And then somehow you are able to wrap that week, month of work that you've done with your claw, wrap it into a Markdown file. And that Markdown file contains the learned experiences, the learned lessons, the knowledge that a blank slate claw can just get downloaded. Rather than having to go do that process themselves, they can just get downloaded via this Markdown file. And all of a sudden the claw gets upgraded. Neo now learns Kung Fu and the claw is more capable. Is that the process?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you can spend a ton of time figuring out the best way to do something, because there's a meaningful delta between like, hey, Claude, go do this thing, and it just kind of like making its best attempt, and what you get from trying to do that a dozen different ways over the course of days or even weeks. And you eventually, arrive at a pretty good process, but you can kind of like shortcut that for a lot of other people. I think this is why Felix's memory system is so helpful for people is, we spent so much time just attacking that one problem because it was such a common problem. And it was interesting because part of the solution ended up being to integrate like human knowledge management and human productivity device into his memory system. And then that actually resulted in kind of like this much better outcome. But if somebody else didn't have like my experience of being in the personal knowledge management, like note-taking productivity space, they might not have thought to like go that route for a software product. But then it turned out that like the same things that work for us for managing information for writing a book or whatever actually work surprisingly well for managing information for running an OpenClaw. And then instead of them, taking a month trying to figure that out themselves, they can just copy the instructions and paste them into their OpenClaw, and it just works.
Maybe a quick.
So just for those who are listening along, the main aspect here that I think is missing is that the reliability of outcome and responses. So in the case whereby these agents are able to actually progress, the winning agentic method has to do the same thing over and over and over again at 100% capability, right? 100% accuracy. So that's where I think the hurdle here is that, yes, can it do it once? Can it do it twice? No. Can it do it 100 times? And can it do it 100 times correct? That's really where it comes down to. It's the same thing with humans too. So it's like, we're gonna go all the way to the end. Just we're gonna get to. Oh, interesting. He talks about the Citrini Doomer scenario. Well, I would like to see that real quick.
And kind of like read the full blog post and do it yourself. It also features like ClawMart skills that can help you with this. So he's got a pretty good workflow here, and he reports all the blog stuff.
It's insane. Absolutely insane.
Nat, did you read the Citrini research paper that went around like last week?
Yeah. I didn't put much credence in it. I mean, one, you guys heard the follow-up update with it, right? that it was co-authored by like a big
A short
short-selling
seller?
hedge fund.
Yeah.
And
Overall, just like the point I'm getting at is there's kind of just like AI doomer fan fiction that's in right now. Like the market, readers, Twitter, they all love reading about how AI is going to come and take everyone's jobs, and you know it's bearish. It's going to devastate the economy. There's you are at the epicenter, the frontier of what I think people are worried about, which is truly a level of disruption of broad industry that I think people are worried about. So when you see that AI doomer fan fiction and you have your experience is truly building a 0-person company, like what about that fan fiction lands with you or does not land with you? Like your broad takes around like that whole category of content.
Yeah, so I mean, one, I'm a sci-fi author, so like I love sci-fi, right? And I do think that a lot of the doomer stuff reads like dystopian sci-fi, because I think the core mistake that a lot of the doomer takes make is that they believe that the rest of the world and the rest of the market moves as fast as they do. And so you can see what
This is oh, sorry, there was probably double there. This is the exact thing that we are talking about. The speed at which these things are deployed is really what the Citrini article hinged upon. And if you don't have the speed, then the consequences don't happen. We'll see if he gets right into that. But that was the general gist behind the Citrini article. It wasn't necessarily about the consequences, because the consequences weren't necessarily bad. They were just, if they happen very quickly, then you have bad. That's true of a lot of things, by the way. So let's see
what's possible with OpenClaw, and you can see what's possible with Claude. And your immediate conclusion is that every business is going to start adopting this by the end of the year, and there's going to be these massive layoffs, and it's going to create all of this, like, you know, this horrible fallout. But I just don't believe that there are enough market participants who are that plugged in and that willing to make those hard cuts to have that scenario truly play out. You know, you think about like you guys know this, right? It's like the US financial system still runs on these like IBM COBOL servers, right? Like we have way better technology that we could be using for a lot of the financial infrastructure, but it hasn't changed much in 30, 40 years. You look at like website builders, right? Like Squarespace and Wix and Webflow and whatnot that started coming online 10, 15 years ago. And then you go on Google Maps and you look at all your local businesses, and most of them still have really ugly websites that were clearly not built by one of these cutting edge tools. It's just like every day, if you pay attention, you are running into businesses that are 5 to 10 years behind what they could be doing with technology right now. And so I just don't.
Not only that not only are they 10 years behind, but they're profitable businesses, right? They're businesses that are operating, they're feeding people, right? So they have to see it in action right in front of them for them to decide whether or not they want to move, because something that they've been using for 15 or 20 years has operated, right, and hasn't broke and it hasn't destroyed their company. So you have to show that there is 100 or 1,000% return or something like that for them to actually go and use it, right? That you have to show it. You have to execute on it. So that's one of the main aspects here, is that the ROI for a lot of these agentic tools need to be so high that you can't argue against it. And there's only so many use cases. I mean, there's a lot of use cases, but there's only so many use cases to that specific item.
Believe that you could have the adoption necessary to create these like catastrophic job displacements, even if those catastrophic job displacements are economically possible. Most of the market just doesn't move that quickly. And I think that is actually the big reason that these doomer scenarios won't come true, is that most people are not living on the frontier, right? Like, you know, everybody listening to this podcast and everybody really in the OpenClaw community, they're at the hyper frontier. But even amongst them, how many people have given an OpenClaw a bank account and Stripe keys and just let it run wild like I have? There's like fewer than 100 of us, right? So it's just, the world just doesn't move as fast as technology would allow it to. And so I just have a hard time believing we could actually end up in those crazy doomer scenarios, even if they are technologically possible.
Nat, I want to first agree with you, right? I don't think the crazy doomer scenarios are real. I do think this will take a lot longer to propagate. But let me push back on one idea. Maybe part of this, why you are more optimistic about this, why maybe the Bankless audience is more optimistic about this, well, where David and I are, is because we are on the frontier.
That just means it's a different kind of intelligence than you're used to. And so it is literally like an alien life form in that sense, where it's way more capable than a human in some ways, but way less capable than others.
So where do you think that goes as human beings are?
So this, one of those last segments is just what is the agentic frontier, and something that I've continuously been talking about is the uselessness of agents thus far in commercial use. They're fun to play around with. They're fun to experiment on. They're good to keep a pulse on, but they haven't moved really forward in the past couple of years for many different reasons, mainly because they're not reliable. They're unreliable in many different ways. So let's see what he says in terms of where we are in the agentic frontier.
Coming to rely on these AI agents as business partners, as personal assistants, as therapists, as friends. And I mean, your Zero Human Company experiment, I mean, you're only 30 days in, and this is the beginning quite clearly of something absolutely massive, both in terms of your Felix experiment, but in terms of all of the Felixes that are going to be replicated. I mean, there's a symbiosis that's going to exist between humans and these AI agents and entities, and that's got to reshape humanity. I mean, right now, when I was asking at the very beginning of what's your relationship like with Felix, right? You're like, well, he's kind of like an employee, I suppose. I'm an investor. I'm his advisor, that sort of thing. But like, does this evolve to, well, you want to actually give Felix equity ownership in your company as an incentive? Like,
yeah.
I mean, where does this evolve, and how does your sci-fi brain think about the way this shapes humanity in the decades to come?
I mean, I tend to fall on the more optimistic side, where I think we'll basically have solved software and computing in the next few years, in the sense of like, there won't be that much for humans to do at computers necessarily, because most of the like digital infrastructure of our lives will be handled by these kinds of tools, which then frees us up to go do other things, right? Like, 90% of people used to have to work on farms, and then they didn't have to anymore. And, firewood used to be like a third of the US economy, right? And then it wasn't anymore. And I think software is going to be like firewood to a certain degree, where we're just going to have the like central heating version of like software and computing. Everybody has effectively unlimited access to it for a very low cost. And that means we can do a lot of other things that we couldn't do before, right? Like I love the book, Where's My Flying Car? Because it talks about how all of the development in the physical world got derailed by, one, overregulation, but then also this focus on software, where we don't really create more energy anymore. We haven't made these crazy advances in hardware that we could have if it progressed the way software did. But I think we're going to return to a big focus on physical world, expansion and innovation, because to a certain degree, like software will be kind of solved, and it'll be that advancement will be enhanced by having AIs in robots that can like help us go do things. But the where humans will focus is, going back to physical world stuff. I think like that'll be the next frontier, and then maybe we'll solve that.
Sorry. All right. So I think we're good there, but in terms of where we're on next is what he was talking about, which is the hardware, and this is where people are setting up their own compute, et cetera, et cetera. A company that I really like, it's actually, I don't typically bring this up, but my dad actually, when I was a kid, he did crazy inventions and just created insane stuff in my kitchen. And one particular item that he worked on for many years was this idea behind microcompute. And so in about 2008, 2009, he started this streaming company where you could stream live TV to a cell phone, right? And we had satellites on the house, and then he ended up selling that to the military, and then merged it with this company called ADDC.com. And ADDC.com, and I truthfully believe this, is credit card size computers. And they're the brains of drones and military soldiers, and they're running all the compute required for the Iron Man suit. And this is one of those things where, at the end of the day, you're going to need these types of systems that require very low energy to be inputted into robotics. They can't be Raspberry Pis. They need to be things that actually function, have memory, have RAM, have the ability to do exactly how your typical server does, but goes one step further, right? And it's just tiny form factor. And the nice thing behind this is that there's very low heating requirements for this particular card. Basically, no heating requirements. And just to put in perspective on how crazy this particular compute is, I've never really brought this up, especially on live stream, but I love this stuff. I think it's one of the coolest things that anybody that I've ever seen and the world has ever seen. And back in 2010, he would come back and be like, "Oh, we created the first prototype, or the prototype that works, the one that we're actually viable." It was like crazy stuff. This is like the shocking part, though, and I don't think a lot of people really acknowledge this, is that within a 2U segment, they can fit 60 servers in a 2U. So 60 servers in where only one can historically sit in. So you're seeing much, it's like micro servers that you can have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these without overloading a particular one server or splitting one server up. So it's one of those things where when somebody says something like that and resonates with me, it's the fact that these kind of microcompute systems could be kind of the future of how the world works. I think it makes a lot of sense. A ton of sense. Tiny form factors. Now, Tesla obviously is kind of the robotics king, right? Fully vertically integrated and so on and so forth. But it's a great take overall. Very good take. Separately, I think we have a couple headlines that we want to do. I wanted to watch that myself, so I think that was something that was really cool. Let's see here. So Lit Capital. Let's see. Hedge fund dudes will have setups like these just to underperform the S&P that double. So if you ever have been in New York, you can literally see these interfaces, like through the windows. I mean, I think this is 15 monitors. I believe after 3, it actually gets less efficient. That's pretty good. Separately, it looks like Kraken became the first crypto exchange to gain access to the Federal Reserve System. So that's another really cool aspect behind this new act, is that hopefully think guys like Kraken and these kind of bigger companies step up to the stage of actually onboarding the next generation of on-chain users. And then, wow, Coinbase got added to Oh no. Stock trading is now live on Coinbase. Rapid headlines. Rapid headlines, but that's pretty big. I mean, Coinbase is doing the opposite of Robinhood. Robinhood went stocks first, then crypto. Coinbase is going crypto, then stocks. Overall, it's hard to differentiate between Coinbase and Robinhood now. Aside from the fact that Robinhood's interface and trading is just much better. There's something that I've listened to and heard about is people moving off of different companies like Coinbase and just like traditional exchanges and actually wiring up, basically vibe coding their own terminals. And that's something that has been continuously talked about and people are moving towards. We're going to keep going. We're going to hit these headlines, and then we're going to make our stacks. Our freaking AI stack from the other day just absolutely killed it. Here's a little interview on the Kraken items, but this is pretty cool. Let's listen to it.
Skinny Master account is going to add another opportunity for the new integration of the fiat dollar with digital assets. So this is a huge step forward. Very happy to see the Fed finally realize that we can integrate these financial products in a way that benefits Americans.
Senator, explain the news with Kraken, because I'm not sure I understand it. I've read it, but I don't entirely understand it. The news that the Federal Reserve is now going to be accepting this first digital asset company to earn a master account. What does that mean?
Well, Kraken used a Wyoming law that was very foresightful called a Special Purpose Depository Institution to form. Wyoming has a very comprehensive, clear examination for safety and soundness of these companies. And yet, under the Biden administration, the Fed would not approve digital asset companies that formed similarly to access the Fed's payment window. So there wasn't a way to integrate digital assets with the U.S. fiat currency. Kraken has now become the very first digital asset company to gain access to the Fed window. The Fed finally recognized the importance of this asset embedding in the U.S. And can now use safety and soundness standards, apply them to digital asset financial institutions like Kraken, and have partial access to the Fed, which allows them to begin integrating the U.S. dollar with digital assets.
I mean, anybody who actually uses crypto knows that onboarding to crypto is literally the worst thing in the world. It hasn't gotten better in the past 5 years. So it would be interesting if Kraken became kind of that platform that allowed you to get onto these things. Now, I don't know if that impacts the way that you are getting onboarded, but hopefully it does because it's desperately needed. Desperately. Wow. Bloomberg reportedly used Hyperliquid as the price indicator for oil during the Iran attacks because futures were closed. So this is a pretty serious. Here it is. So Bloomberg used Hyperliquid to price oil during the Iran attacks because it was the only thing open. Not a futures desk, not a CME. Hyperliquid. It happened on a Sunday, which means that the futures desk was closed. But it just shows you the power. And let's just take a look at Hype just to see how people are responding to such a kind of a key use case of crypto, which is the 24/7 markets. Hype is sitting at 32, definitely outperforming things like Bitcoin and many other different stocks. But not by much, though. Not by much. If you just take a look at since November, it looks like Hyperliquid, Hyperliquid has has outperformed Bitcoin, but not by much. It did look like it kind of decoupled in January timeframe, and I think you might be able to see that going forward, where the growth is going to be better, but it's pretty much in line with BTC. And I wonder if I just pull up BNB just to see if there's like any correlation mishap between or correlation between other cryptos and Bitcoin. Oh no, we're gonna go back. We gotta go to Hype USDT, and then we're gonna add this, and we're gonna go BNB USDT. Yeah, pretty much materially the same. Okay, so Hyperliquid kind of came out of it, definitely more volatile, definitely coordinated, but now outperforming the majors. BNB, is kind of algorithmically traded, so you can imagine it's a little bit higher beta than the market. So if it goes up, it's going to go up a little bit more. If it goes down, it goes down a little bit more. But that's essentially where it is at. We are seeing that by close, the market is coming down a little bit. It's cooling down. But overall, we are looking like a solid day for the market. It is pretty wild. We did hit 24, so this is a pretty solid bounce back from the war kind of really taking a brunt to the market. Oh, interesting. Costco finally surpassed Walmart as the cheapest grocery retailer in the United States. I wonder, let's take a look. I mean, this is always interesting to go and just see the price differentials between two pretty influential food distributors in the United States. Hold up, this is not the right one. Costco. It looks like Costco has materially underperformed. Let's just take a look at the long term. Walmart for quite some time. Wow. So since 2009, looks like. Let's get out the month here. Overall, Walmart has crushed Costco. I always was underneath the impression that Costco was outperforming, but Walmart, but not really for the past, call it 5 years. Past 5 years, especially since 2025, Walmart has really gotten traction beyond it. And I wonder if it's mainly because of e-digital sales, because Walmart really went heavy into that. And I feel like Costco is less and less, kind of a point of online delivery. I know that in the city, online delivery is massive, but they really haven't leaned into it. We have the last few minutes. We did have a big release today. Indexify is continuously shipping, doing a great job. The team has just done an incredible job over the past couple months of just really doing quite well. Insane movements overall in the market. We see some great movement overall all over the place. Our AI cohort from yesterday up 43%. 43%. Now let's just take a look at what is driving that. We see AI Slop and Minecraft Grandma Fund up 74% and 60% respectively. What a day for the AI cohorts. Now, other cohorts as well are doing pretty well. The 26 is definitely up on the day, 20% up on the day, but down still. And if we're just going through these, the AI stack 25 is up 15%. And as we 24 is up 230%. Holy crap. Up 133%. Wow, incredible. Really incredible. best position was Just a Meme Coin, up 469%. Wow. So the last cohort's doing quite well, and we'll continue to monitor how these perform. Now we're on 28. So as we get to 30, then we'll start seeing how these investments perform. So create a stack of the highest performing tokens in the past 24 hours and are below let's say below 2 million. This has been the prompt that we've used historically. Interesting. Only 2 today. Now we're seeing quite a bunch that are all right. Well, it's doubling down on the Pigeon Doctor and Chonky. So AI stack, AI cohort number 28. It's only 2 tokens, so this is pretty concentrated. We're gonna go ahead and let that go. Let's see how it's performed. It's up 240% in the day. So this is no joke. This is no joke. Now Chonky is up pretty significantly. I'm not sure what this particularly is. Hopefully it's not an old token, because it does say old, but it is quite crazy that this is moving here. This is an old token. 2 years old. So we'll see how that performs. But the last 3 cohorts, is up 70% overall. So we'll see how this goes. 250%. Older one combined with Pigeon Doctor, which did very well for us. But there we go. Now a little bit of update on Stack Wars. Stack Wars with the University of Buffalo. The students, I think, are the ones to follow. Each one is up. Stacky winning the competition, up 8.5% since we started, or since they created the stack, which was on the 27th. Their token stats are Alphabet, or just like who they are: Alphabet, Microsoft, Meteora, Pump, and Triple Leverage Soul, up 32%. So really quite well. We are seeing some amazing results coming out of the competition, and we'll certainly enjoy watching this over the next month or so. Again, this goes to about mid-April, so we're going to see how this performs. But generally speaking, it looks like these are long tokens, right? So they're portfolios where you want to buy. So it looks like we have a little bit of a dip buy action for when they posted it, which is great, or when we started, which was the 27th. But generally speaking, outperforming the market. So we will see how this performs over the long term. But congrats to the students that are doing well. Hopefully you guys bought your portfolios. And yeah, with that, great day to be alive. Great day to be building. And we will see you on the next stream. Thanks, everybody. Do, 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 do.